All right, this is the third and final Chapter 3 study video. The topic for this is finding and translating questions in Latin, starting with the first kind of question, yes or no. So, to form a yes or no question, add NE to the end of the first word of a sentence. If you are looking for a question in Latin, you will recognize a yes or no question by looking for NE at the end of the first word of the sentence. As far as translating it goes, I want you to start out by translating the sentence as if it were a normal sentence and not a question. Be sure to translate the verb with a helping verb. So that would be a progressive translation or an emphatic translation, but not a simple translation. For example, if the verb is ambulas, we would translate it as you are walking or you do walk. Don't translate it simply as you walk. If you translate it with a simple translation, we will be unable to form it into a question when we go to do that. Next, once the verb is translated, you're going to switch the helping verb with the subject to form it into a yes or no question. So let's look at what we translated earlier. Ambulas, you are walking, or you do walk. To form it into a question, we'll take are and move it in front of you. For are you walking? We'll take do and put it in front of you for do you walk. So that's the difference between a verb in a normal sentence, ambulas, and a verb in a question, ambulasne, for yes or no question. Next, questions containing particles. A particle is a word that has no direct translation. It's also a word that's essential to the meaning of the sentence. In Chapter 3, we learned two interrogative particles, none and num. Instead of having a direct translation, they're going to translate into a particular grammatical structure within the sentence. If this seems confusing, don't worry, we're going to go over it in more detail. Starting with talking about the particles. None is used for questions expecting the answer yes. Num is used for questions expecting the answer no. You might be wondering, how do I translate a word that does not have a translation? What in the world is a question that expects the answer yes? What in the world is a question that expects the answer no? So let's start with none. Questions expecting yes. We're going to phrase them by starting with a positive statement followed by a negative question. For example, you like pizza, don't you? Right? Positive statement is you like pizza, followed by a comma and then the negative question, don't you? That question, when we ask it, it's phrased in such a way where we expect the answer to be yes. Remember, expects yes starts with a positive statement. Yes and positive go together. And then let's talk about the second particle, num. Num is for questions expecting the answer no. So we're going to do the exact opposite as we did with none. Instead of starting with a positive statement, we're going to start with a negative question. Instead of ending in a negative question, we're going to end in a positive question. So for num, we start with a negative statement followed by a positive question. For example, you don't pick your nose, do you? Started out with the negative statement, you don't pick your nose. It's negative not because it's a bad thing, but because of the not in the contraction don't. You don't pick your nose, comma, positive question, do you? Remember, if it expects no, it starts with a negative statement. No and negative go together. All right. Moving on to the last kind of question. Open-ended questions begin with an interrogative adverb. These types of questions don't have a set answer like yes or no questions do, or that questions either expecting yes or no do. There's a whole wide variety of things you could get for your answer. You've currently learned 4 interrogative adverbs. First one is ubi, meaning when or where. Second one is unde, which means from which place, from where, or where from. Next one is quo, which means in which or to which, where to, or to where. And the last one, even though it's not in your Chapter 3 vocabulary, I taught it to you guys anyway, is cur, which means why. So these are questions in Latin from Chapter 3. If you have any questions, let me know. Have a good weekend. See you on Monday.